just talking to Coach Glenn about the quarterback competition. Said it, Grant and Jason sort of got the majority of the work in the scrimmage the other day. How do you feel like that competition is coming along, and have you been pleased with the progress so far of those quarterbacks?
I think it's been really competitive at multiple positions, but obviously especially that one. And I've been pleased with both of those guys. I think they both bring a unique skill set to the table. They've both done things extremely well. They're battle tested. They know what it means. You can see the clock in their head and the pocket and things like that. They know what it feels like to play at this level of football. So I've been very impressed with both of them so far this spring.
Brad said, he didn't want to speak out of turn, but he can envision if there's a clear leader that there's, be a benefit to naming a starter, after spring's done. If there's a guy that's ahead, do you think it's trending in that direction? Do you feel like you're, closer to having a starter at quarterback than you would imagine at the start of spring?
I'd say there's a chance, for sure. I think you want to be able to do that for a variety of reasons going into your summer program. Obviously, having that guy, having that clear-cut leader of the offense as you go into throwing routes on air and team organized practices in the summer, I think there's huge benefits from it. But I'm just interested to see how the last few practices shape out, how these guys compete. But I think anytime you can name a starter coming out of spring, the sooner the better.
We've talked to everybody, and everybody kind of smiles when we mention Connor Blumrick, and he's kind of a guy that I know you guys have moved around a little bit. What makes him so dynamic, and kind of what have you seen from him moving around this spring?
His athleticism, his size, his smarts, his ability to understand the big picture of the game as a skilled player because of the position that he's played. It's been fun to move him around in a variety of different roles, and I think he's got a chance to really help our offense. But I'd say it starts there. I mean, he's an extremely intelligent guy, cares about the game, is an elite competitor in my mind. No one wants to compete more, whether that's physically, mentally, the way he grinds at practice, the way he works. And then just his size to speed ratio. He's got a unique skill set from that standpoint. So it's been impressive to watch him do a variety of different things and really handle them all pretty well.
What has stood out to you about the young quarterbacks, Taj and Devin, so far?
They've done a really nice job. I'd say the first thing that strikes me is obviously we're installing a new offense, right? Been doing that since we got boots on the ground here, or my boots on the ground in January. And just their ability to pick it up, their work ethic through it. Their guys are always in here extra, always working on their craft, always grinding, always asking questions. That part of it's been really impressive to me, and I think you're seeing some of that show up on the field here these last few practices. I've been very impressed with both of those guys.
Have you had a guy like Connor in the past that you've coached or been on teams that you've coached that you've kind of moved around in that role, or is that something you're still sort of figuring out as this process plays out?
Well, we certainly have. At another place, we had a quarterback that we moved around. Tommy Stevens ended up going to the NFL as actually a tight end, and we were able to use him in a variety of different roles at another place. So I think we've been a part of that, and I think you look at the trend in football and with what the college game wants and also what the next level wants, the ability to have that change of pace guy that can play quarterback, that can line up at a skill position, I think that gives you an advantage on offense, being able to be in the same personnel group and present different looks to the defense.
With the running backs, I mean, even a bigger competition than that quarterback in terms of numbers. How have you narrowed that down, especially on Saturday with that scrimmage that you guys had? Have
Recording in progress.
Narrowed it down to a smaller group at this point? After 9 practices in now.
You know what? The last Saturday scrimmage was really good. I think we started developing a little bit clearer of a picture. But I wouldn't say we're way down the road with that yet. We need to see how these last few finish up. Running back's a position, it's very similar to tight end. You can have a group of guys, whether it's 5, whether it's 9, whether it's 4, it doesn't matter how many. They're all going to have their own unique flair on the position. right? I mean, you hear the idea of a change of pace guy or a bigger short yardage guy or a guy that's very solid catching the football out of the backfield. I think running backs, that type of position, just like the position of tight end, those guys can impact the game in different ways, and I think we're still learning that. We're starting to narrow it down. I think you're getting a clearer picture as we go through it, but I think we're too early to say that, hey, we're set on these guys. I wouldn't want to say that at this point. They're all bringing something different to the table, and we just got to continue evaluating them.
You know, you don't have tons of guys with experience. Any of the younger guys jumped into that top group? That
Recording stopped.
We're still mixing them around, to be honest. Young guys, old guys are getting reps with every group as we go 1, 2s, 3s in practice, just trying to see those guys operate, digest the offense, being able to get lined up quickly and execute their routes and run tracks and all those things. So I think it's too early to say where guys are jumping around. But overall, it's been an impressive group, how they work, how they compete, but also help each other. That's what's been unique to see at really every position where we've got these big competitions, which is across the team, is just how our team embraces the competition but doesn't shy away from being a good teammate. And I think I'm seeing that in that room as much as any room.
In terms of the quarterbacks, the deciding it, how does that discussion work? Is it you and Brad, and then you go to Brent and say kind of what you guys were thinking? Is he involved? Does that happen kind of on a weekly basis? Like, I mean, you know, what's sort of like when you're like feeling like, okay, we're ready to go? Like,
right.
what's the decision kind of making process like?
Recording in progress.
It's certainly a group decision. We have a personnel meeting every Monday with Coach Prize and offensive staff. They do the same thing on defense, and we go through the entire roster, take time with it, go through how was the week of practice, which guys have maybe earned more reps here, which guys have lost reps, and it's always that communication. So it won't be anything where it's myself or Brad, a singular decision, or us as a group. It's really an entire decision from the entire unit on offense along with Coach Pry.
So it's not necessarily like a separate meeting you'd have on
Recording stopped.
It's part
No.
of that personnel meeting on Mondays?
It's part of every position. We're evaluating every position just like that. I think right now for us, you know, every player on the team has had a clean slate, has had a fresh start, has had a chance to come out and show their value as a football player and how they conduct themselves and all those things. And I think it's no different at that position. We're talking about all those guys and going through that roster with a fine-tooth comb daily, but certainly on our Monday personnel meetings and just kind of the previous weeks went and what we have to do going forward to make sure that we're pushing the right buttons and heading in the right direction.
You have a pretty veteran tight end group at the top with Gallo and Dooley. Have they been what you expected in terms of veteran guys in that room?
They've been awesome. Really good group, really smart group, capable group. They've been really fun to coach. I mean, you look at all those guys in there, whether it's Drake, Nick, Ty, some young guys stepping up in the fold. I think those guys have been excellent, have picked up the offense well. Like every position, you're a work in progress, but I've been really impressed with their leadership, how they conduct themselves, their routines, and how they take care of their body and show up to practice every day with a blue-collar style. That's been fun. They've been a really fun group to coach. I've been very impressed with them.
I'm sure you'd like all of them to be ready to be put in a game at any time, but is there a certain number that you really would feel comfortable with and go, hey, this is what we have to have to run this offense this year?
I think it's still shaping, right? And to me, you're always looking at, I know I mentioned this before, but right, you're looking at that position, the wide receiver position, and the running back position all in one. And, you know, how are we surrounding the signal caller and that offensive line with the best skill that we can on the field? But I think generally in a perfect world, you're carrying 4 on a travel roster. But that can always fluctuate. It has over the years. Some weeks you carry more, some weeks you carry less. I'm coming from a world where 1 week you have 2, 1 week you carry 5. It kind of depends on how the game plan plays out. But I think you're looking at all of those groups over the course of time as we move all the way through training camp leading into that first game and like, hey, what personnel groupings give us the best chance to be successful on the field?
I know you're going to get some extra bodies at offensive line and specifically tackle kind of coming in the summer. But right now, from what we've seen, a lot of the walk-ons have been with that second-team group. How important have they been to kind of providing depth at tackle? And is that a position where you kind of worry a little bit about depth still in terms of just numbers of guys that you have right now?
We certainly need to develop depth on the offensive line, but I will say this. There's been a lot of development made. I think Coach Rudolph does an incredible job with those guys, and to watch guys step up in the fold and get opportunities and earn more reps. They've all done things at particular times that you're saying, hey, he's got it in him. We just got to get more consistent. And I'd say that's as a whole, as an offense. There's flashes all the time. We just got to continue to get more consistent, right? Making sure that it's not enough to know what to do; it's to know it where I can't get it wrong. And I think we're trending in that way, but we just need the consistency to show up, particularly out of that second group. But there's been flashes here and there that show promise.
One more.
What's jumped out to you about that first group, offensive line? Obviously, there's a lot of veterans led by Johnny and Silas.
Right. No, they've done an awesome job. It's the way they work to start with. I was an offensive lineman. I think that's a position you better show up every day with a lunch pail. You got to be tough. You got to be willing to put in the time. You got to be willing to grind it out, and that's what's impressed me about that older group. They're willing to do that. It's a tough group. It's a working group, and then you supplement that in. I think Silas has done a really nice job out at tackle. It's been good to see him getting all those reps. Johnny, I coached Johnny as a true freshman at the University of Maryland. It's been interesting to see him from where I had him as a true freshman, and then kind of these gap in years and where he is now. Parker's done a nice job filling on the other side. Caden, Jesse, there's been flashes. Bob Schick, just on and on. There's been flashes here and there. We're just working to get that group more consistent. And obviously, over time, you want that group to be cohesive as you go into the season where those 5 guys are playing as one.
All right, thank you, Coach. Coach Pride coming up next.
All right. Thank y'all.